All right, welcome back, Internet. Today we are looking at pork belly, one of my favorite. I seem to be doing a lot of ones that involve cooking. Normally, as I was trying to say, I often don't cook a lot of my food, but chicken, pork has to be cooked. So here's our pork belly. I've already started doing it, but let me just kind of flip it over and show it to you. So we've got a pork belly, and this is where bacon comes from. And if we turn it sideways, you may say it looks like a slice of bacon. And so essentially, we're making homemade bacon here. And what I've done is I started by drying off the top, and it's gotten a little bit wet again, and I started cutting little slices in. Now you can slice these as thin or as thick as you want. Ideally, what we want to do is when we're cutting these, we want to just get through the skin. So we want the fat to not, I want to cut into the fat just enough that it starts to get in there and not past. So in some cases of these, I kind of went a little too far right here. You can see I went into the meat a little bit. In some other ones, I haven't gone too far. Sometimes it's hard to tell. It's okay. It's not the end of the world if I go a little too far or if I don't go all the way through the fat like here. That's perfectly fine. But we want to get just enough of the skin cut so that the fat, when it starts to melt, will come out onto the surface of the pork belly. And for a couple of reasons. So one is because we want to add salt and we want it to stick. And so when the fat melts and comes off, the salt will continue to stick to the top. Having a little trouble cutting through this one here. And the other reason then is that we're going to try and make crackling pork belly. So there's a few different ways you can cook it. Generally, I like it softer, where I keep the skin quite soft, but we're going to make some crackling pork belly as well. So once you've cut it into as many strips as you want, and sometimes I do twice as thick, sometimes I make them that thick, you can make them thinner if you want. But notice I'm not going all the way through the meat. I'm just going through to make sure that I get at least into the fat, and in this case, looks like I cut a little bit too deep in some of these. It's not even all the way through, so I did my best. And normally there's a little more fat on the end. This one's not as fat as I would like. But anyway, I've cut strips into it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to place this into my pan here. Now I've double foiled it, and I did that on purpose because I want to catch all the fat that comes off and use it later. And so once I have it like this, I'm going to start by just rinse my hands real quick here, and then I'm going to add salt. And I'm going to add salt all over the top, not only because it tastes good, but because that's what's going to allow the crackling portion to come through. So here's the salt. I'm going to add lots, okay? Add lots of salt. And I'm going to do this more than once. I'm going to add salt now. And you're going to see that I'm going to do this at least once more. Lots of salt here. Good bacon. All right. All right, that's going to help make the crackling when we get there. All right, next thing I want to do is I just want to try if I can, and I have 2 layers here for this purpose. I want to cover the sides so that, in this case, maybe not the best, because I don't want the sides to dry out. I just want the top to dry out. Okay, so this is what it looks like. I'm going to throw it in the oven at 285 Fahrenheit for about 2 hours. And after I do that, I'm going to take it out and turn it into crackling. Now, having said that, anywhere between a half hour to an hour, I'm going to come back and we're going to pull it out and we're going to look at it. We're going to re-tighten up the foil around the sides, and then we're going to re-salt it again. And then in 2 hours, we'll again take it out and we'll turn it into crackling by increasing the temperature. So I'll come back and show you that then. If I can just get this big dog out of the way. Move, buddy. Excuse me, bud. We'll throw it in the oven. And what I'll do for now is we'll see you again in half an hour, 45 minutes. We'll do another quick session. We'll take it out and then we'll put it back in. So I'll see you again. All right, we're back. So the pork belly has been in for about 45 minutes, and you'll see that it's shrunk. If we look down here, we'll see that the pork belly shrunk away from the foil, and some of the fat has come out. The salt has hardened a little bit or stuck into it a little bit. So I'm going to just tighten up all the way around. I want to try and make sure that the foil is against the sides so that I don't dry out the sides in general. Keep it nice and moist. All right, so I've done that, and I'm going to resalt it now. It has lots of salt. Probably don't need to resalt. I'm going to add a little more salt now that it's opened up. And as it cooks, you'll see that it starts to separate a little bit in the pieces. So we're doing this now at 45 minutes. I'm going to put it back in for at least an hour, probably an hour and 15. And at 2 hours, we're going to take it out again, and we're going to increase the temperature and try and create the crackling portion on the top. So we'll show that then. So back in the oven it goes. We'll see you again in an hour. Okay. All right, so we had the pork belly in the oven for 2 hours at 285 Fahrenheit. And again, it's shrunk a little bit. So we're going to tighten it up around the edges one last time. And I could take it out and eat it now. It's perfectly good. It's been cooked. In fact, I kind of like it like this. It's still soft on the top. If I press on this, you'll see that it's still squishy. And I actually like it like this. I'm just going to add a little more salt. I had enough, I'm sure. I don't really need any more, but when I make it crackling, I like a lot of salt on it. So I'm going to try making crackling today. Like I said, I normally don't bother. Right in the middle there needs a little bit more. But the salt really helps it kind of bubble up. So I turned the oven back up to 385 now. I'm going to cook it at 385 for somewhere between half an hour and an hour, something like that. And it's really to dry out the top. So again, that's why I have the cover nice and close to the sides. I don't want to dry out the sides. I want to harden the top, but keep the sides soft. So back into the oven it goes for 385. Something about, I'll probably do 45 minutes today because it feels quite soft. Yeah, it's quite soft. I'm going to try and make that a little harder and show you crackling pork belly. So back in it goes. And again, we'll see you in another, I don't know, 45 minutes or so. Alrighty, so our pork belly's been in the oven for another 45 minutes, and it's a lot harder on the skin. I could leave it in longer and make it even harder still, but I'm just going to pull this out and take a look at it. There's our pork belly. So this was 5 pounds. It's a lot smaller now. Looks like it weighs probably 3.5 pounds. And it's perfect for me to cut up because I have all the little things. But before I do that, while everything's hot, I'm just going to note that we have a whole bunch of fat here. And I'm going to take this foil, and I've double wrapped it, hopefully, so that I don't get any on the outside layer. But I'm going to take all of this fat, and I'm going to pour it into a container, and I'm going to use this then and save it by putting it in the fridge. Oops, I spilled just a little bit. That's unfortunate. But I'm going to use this and put it in the fridge, and I'll be able to have... Oh, I did spill a little bit. That's too bad. Let me just grab a thing. Get some of that. I'm going to put this in the fridge and let it separate. Now, I'll show you in a minute a separated one as well. I'm just going to clean that up. That's really a little bit of a waste of some of that fat. Not too much, but I lost a little bit. I put that in the fridge and let it settle. Once it settles, we're going to have 2 layers. We're going to have a fresh white layer of lard that we can use. And we're going to have some colored fat that we're going to toss. We're not going to have that. We're not going to keep that. All right, so let's take a look at this pork belly. I'm going to slice it up then into bacon slices. I can make them, and try and follow as best I can the outline here. That was a little thin. There's my first slice of bacon, essentially. You see how hot it is. In fact, I'm going to throw that right on the plate. I'm going to eat 2 of these right away. 2 or 3 of them. Now, I actually normally cut them a little thicker. And I cut them extra thin this time to really just show you that you could do whatever you want in terms of setting it up. There's quite a bit, actually. There we go. There is my dinner. Or part of my dinner. I'll make some eggs with it. And I can cut the rest up. And again, if you want to go every second one, or however you think you want to make them, you can. I'm going to cut every second one because I think that I'm going to want at least this one for my next batch. And if I want to, I could always set it up into 2s. All right, so here's what this looks like. Now, I'm going to finish cutting this up, and I'm going to put one of these in the fridge for tomorrow and then put the rest away in the freezer for another day. But just while I have this opportunity, since I just put some pork belly fat there and a container into the fridge to let it go, I have the previous one that I've done. This is frozen. We're not frozen, but it's chilled. This was from now, a couple weeks ago. I had meant to take care of it and never got around to it. So I'm just going to spoon this out, and we're going to see that we have a white portion, mostly white, and we've got some colored fat here that is not as pure, that has impurities in it, and it just comes right off. And just to be extra careful, I'm going to go ahead and just take off the top layer here of this, toss it in here as well. Now this lard then can be used for cooking, or if you really want, you can just eat it, but most people cook in it. I certainly don't like eating soft fat, and lard is a soft fat even when it's cold, unlike tallow, which is a lot harder. All right, so I'm gonna toss that, and this is going to go into my lard container. So I have a container for lard, I have a couple containers for tallow, because I have more tallow, but there's my lard container. I'm just gonna plug it in there. And I'm gonna save that to cook with when I'm going to do something next week, actually. And that's it. This is gonna be delicious. You know what? Let me just to show one little bit here, let me just take a little piece. Give one to the dog here, buddy. Good boy. And I'm gonna take a nice bite here, because this looks delicious, and it is. And I made it so that the skin is not quite as hard as it could be. It could be harder if I left it in a bit longer, but it's quite chewy now. And kind of the consistency that I have at this time. That's it. There's pork belly. If you want to make a harder top, just cook it a little bit longer or a little bit hotter, and you can crisp it up a little bit more than I did. Otherwise, good to go. Till next time.